We're live, Mr. Chairman. Good morning. Representative Bear, Representative Byron,
Here.
Representative Locke, Representative Northrup,
Here.
Representative Oakley, Representative Storer. Here. Representative Strock. Here. Representative Zwanitzer. Chairman Harshman. Thank you.
Those kind of things. And if you see members up here typing, they're typing your notes. Some of us write notes, others type. So if you see us dip down and lose eye contact with you, it's because we're trying to record what you're saying, even though we have the YouTube now. I can go back and look, but that doesn't happen as much. So I think we're in good shape. Again, this first bill now, again, appreciate you all here. The first bill for our consideration is House Bill 100. This is the Acquisition Value Study, and the prime sponsor, Representative Jennings here. Welcome to the committee, as you used to serve on this committee.
I did, Mr. Chairman. Thanks for having me this morning. Want to go ahead through the bill? Thank you so much. And since I'm on a 2-minute timer here to get one of the votes. So this bill is very simple, and I'm typically am not overly fond of study bills, but there comes times where it does come about that it's necessary. And so the first thing that I'd want you to remember is that we don't know what we don't know. And this bill is to solve that problem. I think we've made it more robust in the questions and stuff that we want answered. It's brought about because clearly the property tax issue is a huge issue for the people of Wyoming. And a lot of the things that we're running, and which I probably will vote for many of them, as rebates and stuff like that, but this is reform. And I don't think you want to do that with haphazardly. And so this bill is to bring forward a study. And so in the bill, Mr. Chairman, starting on page 2, the questions that we're asking to answer in this study is found on line 7, 21, goes all through page 3. We're far more robust. And the first part on page 4 is how all of those things would interact. California has done this with Prop 13, not without some problems. And so I've been to a lot of meetings with citizens around the state, a number of those, and the people are extremely interested in this. They understand, and I think while I was serving on your committee, we even had a couple of assessors say that there are problems, fundamental problems with the fair market value. And so I took that opportunity to say, hey, we ought to find out if it's something that we want to do, we ought to have these questions answered, because they're things that we don't know. And there are things that we certainly should have on the table in front of us as a legislative body to make any decision to look at tax reform, property tax reform. What do we change? Maybe we don't want acquisition. Maybe we want some parts of acquisition in Wyoming, because Wyoming is not, thank God, California. And so that's what this bill does, Mr. Chairman. It comes from different perspectives. I know that I've talked to, like I said, dozens of people and many people from California, and my experience is different than the chairman's. We've talked about this, and he's run into people that just hate it. And I will tell you flat out, the bureaucracies and the politicians in California absolutely hate Prop 13. The people that I've talked to, it's a different experience than the chairman's. I've yet to find one that of the citizens. I've had some that would say, well, there were problems with how California implemented that. And I agree, there's problems. And so if we were to look at this and look at reform for our citizens, we need to try and step around any of those mines that might be out there. So that's what this bill does, Mr. Chairman. Committee, I stand for questions.
Thank you. Questions, Representative Swan?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Jennings, why 2017 value? Of all the years to pick, is there anything special about that or background on that?
And that is on page 2, lines 10.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Representative Swanitzer, that's kind of an arbitrary pick before the hyperinflation. I mean, you could pick 18, you could pick, 16, 15. California did, I believe it was a 15-year look back. And I didn't think that we needed to go back that far, but I did think that we needed to go back before the hyperinflation.
Okay, go ahead, Representative Oakley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And it's a follow-up on Representative Swanitzer's. You started out saying, we don't know what we don't know. And I mean, obviously I agree with that. That's the idea behind a study. So, but then all of a sudden we just have this 2017, which seems prescriptive. And, I think an independent review means they kind of need to have the ability to put in the inputs and the variables they need. So would you be opposed to us striking that, prescriptive 2017%, inflation? I mean, I think that's the whole point of the study, is for them to use their expertise. Would you agree?
Go ahead, Representative Jennings.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Oakley, I'm not opposed to striking the 17, but I would want the committee to realize why that was put in there, and we'd want to look back before the last couple of years, somewhere back in there.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, Representative Storr?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Jennings, please help me understand why what you see as the problems with fair market value currently being used, and why you think this is worth studying. Thank you.
Now, this is going to be a short question, and this could be a really long answer. And so we're going to keep it a really short answer.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Storr. So while I sat on your committee, there were, and plus there are people that give us anecdote problems with fair market value. And so even the assessors had brought up that there are some issues of uniformity, for instance, different counties doing it, assessing differently.
Okay,
Follow up.
follow up, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Jennings. Please explain to me briefly how the acquisition value would increase uniformity.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, Representative. So that's part of what we don't know exactly. How would the uniformity be better? I don't know for sure that it would. California had a number of problems, and I don't want to repeat some of those problems, but it mainly like on the sell. There's not the you're not affecting your neighbor's property. When you buy uniformly, whatever you purchase at, that's what you would pay taxes on. So everyone would have the same playing field as at the point of acquisition.
Thank you.
Okay, I just have a couple, just quick on line 14, page 2, as a shall. And we want to learn, we want to know what we don't know, and you're telling them what they shall study. And then over on page 4, line 10, there's another shall where you're telling this committee we shall prepare legislation. This committee, I mean, I think I got a little amendment to change those to may. And any questions about that, or problems with that, Representative Jennings?
Mr. Chairman.
Comments?
So on the first one, the study shall include, the last time we brought this bill, it was a little too, there wasn't enough questions being asked. And so we wanted this to be a baseline for what they shall look at least these. Most of these came from the Department of Revenue, of questions that we would want to ask. And I don't know that the shall is necessary, but this would be a minimum of what we'd want to look at.
Okay, very good. Any other questions, members? I'm looking. Oh, okay. I mean, I look and I didn't see Okay, I'm looking at you now. I see it. Okay, you're up.
Thank you,
Representative
Mr.
Law.
Chairman. Just real quick on that, the 2017, from a look back perspective, just for clarification, you said a couple of years. Is there some minimum number of years that are probably important from your perspective, having looking back, just so we kind of have a feel for that?
Mr.
Okay, go
Chairman
ahead.
and Representative Block, I think you should go back at least 3 years. It may be more than that, but I think we've seen hyperinflation for sure in the last 3 years. It's certainly from the pandemic.
Okay.
And
Very
Mr.
good.
Chairman,
Yeah, go ahead.
one other thing, I did put this out because this came in after the fiscal
Right.
note. And I think the Department of Revenue is going to explain that, but the fiscal note put 10,000. They actually have found somebody that would do it for the 10 and the 28. So
Sure.
it's about 38.
Very good. Okay, any other questions? Okay, looking Representative Store.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Jennings, are there any other changes from last year's bill? I think it was House Bill 109 that failed, other than the appropriation change from 70,000 to 10 and now with the 28,000 proposed
Representative
amendment.
Jennings.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Representative. Yes, it is a much more robust study in the questions. Most of those questions, the 109 was more generic, and this is a little more prescriptive to the baseline of what they would study.
Okay. Okay. And you'll be close if we have further questions. Okay, thank you for your presentation of the bill. Now we're going to move to any public comment. I'd like to move to the Revenue Department if they have any comments on this. The director's here. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Brenda Henson, Director of the Department of Revenue. As requested in this bill, we would be reaching out to tax consultants to inquire as to the study and the price. We did reach out to several companies that do this type of work, and we had one that was willing to give us an estimated amount. We basically just provided them with a copy of the legislation and asked them, if it would be possible. And they gave us an estimated number, and Representative Jennings is correct. It's approximately that 38,000. I do want the committee to know that this is a process where we would need to go out for a request for proposals and go through that process. The timing would be a little delayed because of that. But I would respectfully request that on page 4, line 21, that $10,000 be amended to $50,000. Of course, there's the clause in here that we would revert any funds that we would not pay to the representative company. But with that, we do appreciate the bringers of the bill, including some of the suggestions that we had to really guide them. The question of just the implementation of acquisition had a lot of directions that could go. And I was concerned that if we didn't narrow it down in scope a little bit, that could be a very expensive study. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'd stand for any questions.
Any questions, good Director Representative Oakley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So Director Henson, if what I'm hearing from you, then you don't mind the options to consider that are the page 2, line 17, basically Romanet 1 through 8. You think that those are decent sideboards, if you will, as far as the direction for the study?
Go ahead, Director.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Oakley, I do feel that provides enough guidance. We do know anytime you look back to prior year assessed values, and I'm sure the study will identify this, every year property characteristics are updated by county assessors. So there's always going to be that challenge. For example, newly platted subdivisions that occurred in 2020, what value do you go back to if this is a study that's going back 5 years to 2017? But that is a challenge that company, when they do this study, will identify and perhaps give us some suggestions on how to accommodate those property changes. Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, oh, I think we have a question. Representative Storr.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Director Henson. So my understanding is the bill would look at going to an acquisition value based in some years earlier than the current time, from what I'm hearing from the proponent. Do you agree with that?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Storr, that is how the bill reads.
Follow up.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director Henson, could you tell us what the change in property values has been since, for example, 2017 or even 2020, statewide generally, and also in particular, perhaps in the counties such as Teton that have gone up significantly?
Go ahead, Director.
Chairman Harshman, Representative Story. There's two answers to that question. We've got total assessed value for residential property, I'll email that information. I think it's best that the details I'll go ahead and email to the committee if that's acceptable. But we've got the situation where you compare total assessed value for residential property to total assessed value. Obviously, that includes new construction, newly platted land, and so it's not an apples to apples. We also have gone back and done some analysis just on a median average increase in residential property tax. And so I think that the two of them, it's important to consider the differences. If you receive an assessment that you just built a new house, that's a substantial increase from year to year, but I will provide the committee with that detailed information today.
Thank you.
Okay, very good. Okay, thank you for your testimony today. Any other elected officials here? Okay, go ahead. Welcome, Mr. Assessor.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Ken Gill, Laramie County Assessor. The Assessors Association did get to meet on this bill, and actually during the interim, a lot of the questions that are in this bill were provided by the assessors, the Department of Revenue, legislators. So it was very much a collaborative effort during the interim. The association really had no position on the study, not against a study, obviously. We're very happy that it's an outside agency to study this, and we did question the $10,000, and I think you'll probably take care of that because we knew a study would cost much more than that. One problematic thing for administration would be going back to 2017, and not to repeat what Director Henson said, but in just my county alone, we would have multiple new houses from 2017 till now, multiple new subdivisions. So it could be problematic, and we go and list properties every 6 years, and they change pretty much every time we go to a property. So that would be a problematic, but maybe they can tell us how to do that in this study. So for that, I would stand for any questions, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've just got a quick question on what do you think about the three options? I just think of these being really big systems. I mean, we say that we've got to study at least three options for implementing a property tax system. Do you think, is that too many, maybe even only two or something? Just your thoughts on that. Oh, I'm sorry. Page 2, line 8, the study shall include at least three options for implementing a property tax system. Based on acquisition value, I just didn't know. I mean, if that's too far of a reach, if there's only like basically two options or something, I don't know. I'm asking.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Oakley, I think the more options, the better, probably, in my opinion. The study should help with that. And then the legislative body can look at those options and narrow down to which ones they want to focus on.
Okay, any other questions? The good assessor? Okay, thank you for being here today. Hey, I think we're going to open this up. Are there other electeds here? I don't see any that are Hey, we're gonna open this up. Anybody opposed to the bill want to speak? Okay, anybody online opposed? Don't think so. Is there anybody online on this bill?
We have several people online, no one with their hand up.
Yeah,
currently.
so nobody opposed. Okay. Others here in favor of the bill, we're gonna get working this bill pretty quick. Folks here that want to speak in favor of the bill? Are you all here for the next bill? Okay, I see no one here in the room that wants to speak on this bill. And you said there are folks online that might want to speak on this?
I do
Nobody's
have
got their
several
hand.
People online, if they'd like to speak, if they'd raise their hand, I can admit them.
Okay. No hands? Okay, I'd invite Representative Jennings back up here as we work this bill. And if we have questions, we'll direct them your way. So we're going to go ahead and close public comment. Committee, what's your pleasure on House Bill 100? Moved the bill by Representative Northrop and seconded by Representative Zwanitzer. Okay, so we are on page 1. We'll just work this page by page. Now, page 2,
I've got 2 amendments.
Representative Oakley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The first amendment that I would move is page 2, lines 10 through 13, striking the entire sentence, starting with 1, ending with year. On line 13, did I say that? Lines 10 through 13, there's an entire sentence, strike the entire sentence. One of the options in the study shall assume the properties in the 2017 value ending with year.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Okay, any second by Representative Zwanitzer. Okay, any discussion? Discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. Okay, that's been adopted. Are there other amendments on page 2? Representative Oakley?
I move this amendment. So the last sentence, so starting on line 13, the last sentence of this, so it starts out for each of the options, strike the balance of the sentence, and after options, add the following factors are recommended to be considered, colon. The following factors are recommended to be considered. Yeah, I think that sentence works.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, the issue with this is last time we were too generic, and so we want them to answer at least, and these are questions that brought up by the county assessors and the Department of Revenue. We wanted it to be prescriptive. I don't care if they go more than this, but they should at least have enough sideboards to have questions, these questions at least brought into the study. I mean, maybe there's a way to put that to open it up to more. But we were going to pay good money for this. We ought to get good answers.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just for discussion, I mean, then we have it in statute according, these people this group that will hire. It says they are to be considered or recommended to be considered. But the only thing I hesitate with any sort of shall is if for one of the systems, for some reason, one of the factors didn't fit, then you're creating that they have to analyze something that doesn't really make sense. This gives them, I mean, they're hired by us. They're going to do what we recommend and ask. But I always, just for the sake of independence and for the sake of, academic freedom and to get the best product, I hesitate with shall. I prefer this language.
Okay. Any further discussion? I think you all understand it. Okay, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Chairs in doubt. All those in favor, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. All those opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4. That motion has been adopted. Okay, now we're any more on page 2. Okay, move it to page 3. Page 3? Sure. Representative Zonitzer. Okay, page 4. Page 4.
Sure, no.
Representative Zonitzer.
Page 4, line 21, if we'd move that 10,000 to 50,000. And I do agree, it's important, especially for our new members, to know that if you put an exact number of what we think this will cost in, we're beholden to that number. And so giving some wiggle room to the department to get multiple bids and make the best assessment. I thought Director Henson, she knows this game very well and was right and recommended that 50,000 number.
Second by Representative Northrup. Discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And adopted. Any other Representative Oakley on amendment?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
50,000. 50, 50, yeah. 50K. Okay, $50,000. Okay, Representative Oakley has an amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Page 4, line 9, changing shall to may.
Page 4,
that
line
where you-
10.
See, you and
I have a different
we have a
bill.
different it's probably me. I printed my own. So I'll use yours.
I don't know what. My bill says, that's kind of strange. My bill says page 4, line 10, there's a shall.
I did this one. I did this one.
There's lots
No,
of
we've got
shalls.
this.
There's
Oh,
lots of
okay.
shalls.
There's lots of
all them?
shalls.
Okay, we need to work it.
And so we shall review the study. That's fine,
That's fine.
but
Shall prepare.
we don't necessarily shall prepare legislation. That was, I think, the point I'd made earlier.
Thank you.
But that other shall, I'm not real in favor of either, but anyway.
That's I'm
We try
sorry.
to not tell the governor and the executive branch what to do too often with a shall and try not to tell each other, but that's okay. So it's that second shall, which is on, this is how I understand it. Correct me if I'm wrong. Page 4, line 10, the shall on page 4, line 10.
That is correct. And I misspoke. That is the.
So that's your
that I've
amendment.
moved,
Is
yes.
there a second? Second by Representative Northrup. Okay, we're all clear on the shall. Okay, any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, please say no. Okay, chairs in doubt, they gotta raise your hands. All those in favor say, raise your hand on this. 1, 2, 3, 4, those opposed. 1, 2, 3, 4, that motion has been adopted. Okay, are there any other amendments on page 4? Now we're gonna move to page 5. Okay, very good. Seeing no amendments, I think we're question being called on the bill. Please call the roll on House Bill 100 as amended.
Representative Bear,
Aye.
Representative Byron,
Aye.
Representative Locke.
Aye.
Representative Northrup,
Aye.
Representative Oakley.
Aye.
Representative Storer,
No.
Representative Strack,
Aye.
Representative Zwanitzer.
Aye.
Chairman Harshman. The vote passes 8 ayes, 1 no.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Representative Jennings. Thank you. Okay, committee, the next bill for our consideration. Next bill is House Bill 287, gaming districts and amendments. I'm actually a sponsor of that bill, so I'm going to go down in the hot seat.
All right. Chairman Harshman, if you will walk us through this bill, House Bill 287, gaming districts and amendments.
Okay, thank you, Madam Co-Chair. Members, good morning, and I just wanted a little background on this. This bill, I'm sorry,
Is your mic on?
it is.
Okay.
I'm real careful about talking too loud in these things. So give me if you're kind of just go like this and I'll know it's too loud. Thank you, Madam Co-Chair. So a little background on House Bill 287 is really a directive by Management Council to the Joint Revenue Committee that we looked at this in the interim, the directive from Management Council, and I think I'm the only returning member off the committee, myself and Senator Pappas on the Senate side. But the idea was for our committee to go out and seek proposals for revenue, new revenue for K-12 education, not raising taxes, but new streams of revenue, and to solicit proposals. So it was in the fall meeting in Casper, when we had this, we set up a deal through the LSO where citizens could make a proposal, and we had a couple. One was a renewable energy proposal, didn't get much traction. This other one was really this class 3 gaming in very limited targeted spots. And really it's around population areas. I mean, and you know, Wyoming, we have a couple communities that are very close to about 6 million people. And so the committee, we appointed a subgroup, Representative Yin, who wanted to represent Teton County to make sure it was not in Teton County, I think. And myself, Representative Schuler from Evanston, and Representative Pappas from here in Cheyenne. So we went over this thing, and you know, because the issue in Wyoming really, and it's the same in every state. I mean, property taxes pay for K-12 education. And, you know, that's kind of the issue with this bill that we just heard on acquisition value, and we'll talk about that later. But really, what's the issue in Wyoming is that minerals pay more than half of our property taxes. And so it's the most volatile government service in Wyoming is K-12 education, because it rides the price of oil. So we're trying to think about how we can maybe get new sources of revenue. So again, you know, in Wyoming, we have the lowest property tax burden in America. You could pay in your house for 40 years, pay property tax, and you won't educate one of your children, K through 12. And by contrast, the Pinedale Anticline, and I've had 4 kids who went through the system, so somebody else paid for them. And it's the Pinedale Anticline, for example, 13,000 children, K through 12. I mean, in just one field in Wyoming. It's just incredible, the blessing. So, so again, a couple of proposals, but the Northern Arapaho came to us in the fall meeting, and so we worked it. We formed this subgroup, and our last meeting was the week of Thanksgiving here in Cheyenne, and we just didn't have the bill ready. And so the 4 of us had already won the election. We were coming back, so we talked with the committee at that time. We agreed to just keep working and bring it maybe as a committee bill or an individual bill. And so this is where we're at. We brought it as the 4 of us brought it as an individual bill. So that's why the 4 of us are on this. So as I walk you through this, it's a very targeted, very limited, much like South Dakota with Deadwood and Colorado with Blackhawk and Central City. And this will authorize 2 locally owned class 3 gaming operations that are going to be within 100 miles of population centers. And you'll see that in the bill. And then again, about 35% of the revenue then goes to K-12, to the school foundation program. 10%, as it's written in this bill, goes to the local governments. But I think, you know, in working with local governments here, I think we've got an amendment to take that up to 20% of that 35%. And so really that's where it's at. So I'll get over the filibuster here and get us on the bill, Madam Co-Chair. But members, if you want to just flip over to page 2, we really write a couple new sections now in this administration of government, these gaming districts. You can see the definitions on page 2. The board is the Board of Land Commissioners. All these definitions from cash equivalent, charitable. The commission is the Wyoming Gaming Commission. Over on page 3, game is defined. Parimutuel is brought in, so that's clear. Skill-based amusement. These are not these games. So when it refers to those, it'll refer that it's not including these. Gaming activities mean these Las Vegas casino style games, including dealing, operating, carrying, and so forth, so on. They do not include online wagering or betting. Okay, gaming activity revenue. You can see what it doesn't include: free wagers, promotional pay, flipping over, Madam Chair, or payments to patrons, or any other taxes, or you probably need to put in there also state land lease payments would fit in there as well. Probably be an amendment that I have scratched on my copy. Gaming district means it's geographic area now. And it's got a couple paragraphs under that, and this is really important. So this is where this is very targeted, located in a county in Wyoming, and I'm on page 4, line 9, Madam Chair. In a county of Wyoming where a metropolitan area with a population of not less than 250,000 inhabitants is within 100 miles. I mean, you could move that to 500,000 if you want. I mean, it's targeted. So, and then designated on land in which a gaming operator may conduct gaming activities in accordance with this article. Gaming facilities, a building, over 100 games. Gaming license means a license issued by the commission. Now, a gaming operator is defined on page 5, line 6, maintains a principal place of business in the state of Wyoming. And this can include the reservations or federally recognized Indian tribes. Line 14, paragraph B, has lawfully operated 2 or more gaming facilities in Wyoming, including on the reservations of federally recognized Indian tribes within Wyoming under federal law for not less than 10 years. This is pretty specific. Okay. And then paragraph C is not one of the following. So a gaming operator is not one of these. It's not a charitable or nonprofit organization. Flipping over to page 6. It's not in paragraph 2 that refers to skill-based games operators at 1125-102. And then paragraph 3 on line 5, page 6, or a person that conducts or operates parimutuel events as defined by 1125-102. So that's parimutuel or HHR games. Okay, and then private land means land that is located in the state of Wyoming, not owned by the federal or state government, and is on the tax rolls in the county. And state land, the definition, and that refers to all lands that are under the Board of Land Commissioners control, that 36-1-101. So it gives the definition of private land and state land. We're not talking about tribal lands or any of that. Right? Okay, now, bottom of page 6, gaming districts formation, it carries over to page 7. So, Madam Chair, a gaming operator may conduct these activities in accordance with the following. Okay, on state land, there's 2 parts to this. 1, submit an application to the board, and that's the Board of Land Commissioners, the top 5 elected officials. See, the idea is perhaps we can locate this on a school section, get a lease, a few acres on a school section, and to increase the revenue to schools. So the board may require any information. And then paragraph B can enter into a lease with the board to occupy that. It allows it to go up to 99 years on line 19. Now, that's the first track that's possible. The second track is in Romanet 2, which is on line 21 on page 7. Now, this is about private land. Okay, shall submit an application to the commission for establishment of the gaming district. It's the gaming commission may require information. Now, and reasonably necessary, the commission, the gaming operator is authorized to conduct these activities. Now, put some sideboards here. Line 6, page 8, 2 gaming districts. All right, that's it, by either the board or the gaming commission under this section. Not more than 2 districts shall operate in the state at any one time. Not more than 1 gaming district shall operate in 1 county. So you can't put 2 in Uinta County or 2 in Laramie County. I mean, this is what we're talking about. The only place with 250,000 people are really those counties, right? And it's to, and you're going to learn through testimony here, 90% of it's going to be out-of-state dollars. It's really an incredible opportunity. So, okay, Mr. Chairman, or Madam Chair, I think we covered most of that. I want to keep working over bottom of page 8 over to page 9. It talks about authorized gaming, talks about valid license, nobody under 21. If there's any alcohol, it's all within state law governing that. That's in paragraph Romanet 4. Talks about obtaining and renewing a license now, and we're going to go over with the Gaming Commission, and that'll flip over to page 10. And at the very top says not later than 60 days after receiving an application. And I think we can probably amend that to 90. I've worked with the commission director and so I've got that penciled in as amendment. And then also on the renewal of that 90 days, that's in paragraph C and D. Okay. Okay, and then flipping over to page 11. These are these payments up front. To be issued a license to the Gaming Commission. I've got an amendment on that, want to increase that amount. And we get into working the bill, but increase that substantially, really, I think, and just kind of working with the commission to make sure that everything's properly regulated. Okay, and that's page 11. Flipping over to page 12. Talks again, more duties of the Gaming Commission as they go through these license. I think promulgate all the rules necessary on paragraph J. That's on line 14. Licensing, I think line 21, Romanet 2, conducting, probably needs the word national criminal history background checks. That's standard in this kind of work. Going over to 13, finishing up these duties of the commission, investigating any violations, and then inspecting the public and private areas. Okay, the distribution of revenue, Madam Chair. Okay, and then this talks about monthly, 15th day of each month at the bottom of page 13, and then flipping over to page 14. 35% of the gaming activity revenue from the prior month goes to the commission. And then the commission then will divide that out further, and you can see that below. Romanet 1, 10% then goes to local governments. Working with the County Commissioner Association, I think they've got a little amendment to make sure we kind of clarify that between the city and the county. I think I'd propose also to make that 10%, 20%. 20% of the 35%, and that's on line 8. So and that talks about the counties and the cities on the rest of page 14. Any remaining parts not distributed under that to the local governments then goes to the school foundation, and that's on page 15, lines 1, 2, and 3. Okay, and now section 2 is existing statute. There's some additions with definitions. First one is gaming activities, all right, and the operator of the gaming district. Flipping over more definitions now and going to the Gaming Commission. These are already in statute where a member of the commission cannot have any interest, or a spouse or immediate family member who has interest in any of these activities regulated by the commission. And now it includes this new activity of Class 3 gaming on lines 13 and 14. And then paragraph K, it amends current statute where the commission can have access to criminal history records of any of these operators of current activities in Wyoming. And we include this activity now of Class 3 gaming. Now over on page 17, another paragraph there that the commission shall regulate gaming activities and the remission of revenue of gaming districts in accordance with these new sections that we've just created and regulation under federal law, state law. Okay, and then finally, Madam Chair, an amendment to existing law on 36.2.101, and this is the State Land Board, and that happens over on page 18. So on line 11, the board shall have the authority to establish gaming districts and enter into leases with gaming operators, conduct gaming activities in gaming districts in accordance in this 924 is the new statute in this bill. 924.201 through 204. So it's a long, little simple bill. But so that's where I'm at. And I would stand for any questions, Madam Chair. But I think members, I just think supporting this is going to be important. It'll contribute tens of millions of dollars to the state of Wyoming, thousands of jobs, not only construction jobs, the initial part, but long-term jobs after that. I think and these are destination type things. So the tourism part, the economic development, spills over to a lot of different areas. And so the tourism and the targetedness of this thing is really important, increases this traffic for, for our hotels, retail, restaurants and so on. So anyway, appreciate your consideration. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Chairman Harshman, for the very good explanation of this little bill. And questions for Chairman Harshman? Representative Bear.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Mr. Harshman, the portion here where it's talking about the alcohol licenses, how can this,
What page is that?
I'm looking for it right now, liquor license. Page 9. Thank you. Romanet 4. How might this affect the resorts that are currently on the reservations in the state of Wyoming? Is there some effect there?
Chairman Harshman.
Yeah, Madam Chair, would actually have no effect. And there's experts in the room that this is not anything related to IGRA, Indian Gaming Act, or any tribal trust lands. This is simply a private business of Wyoming citizens running a Wyoming business, like any other Wyoming business. But yeah, I appreciate that question. Thank you, Madam Chair.
And Representative Bear, if I may, we can probably hear some more, but the casinos on the reservation do not currently sell alcohol. Further questions for Chairman Harshman? All right. Oh. Representative Storr.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Representative Harsh, Mr. Chair, excuse me. Page 14, line 1, 35% of the gaming activity revenue is identified as then going to a number of different entities. Does this say whether that's gross revenue or net revenue from the entity? And could you give us the breakdown of that 35%? It's a little hard to read.
Chairman Harshman.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for that question. If you go back to page 3, and I went pretty fast over this, and it's good. I'm glad you asked this question. Go back to page 3, the definition of gaming activity revenue. It's on line 20 at Romanets 7. So it means the total of all wagers placed by patrons with a gaming operator and gaming activities occurring within the gaming district, excluding free wages, promotional pay, and then flip over, minus all payments to patrons and minus any applicable federal or state taxes. So everything, it's basically after, and then, so that's the definition. And I think I'd mentioned there, I think if this is a state land lease, you'd probably want to include those lease payments along with the taxes. It was 35% of the net, basically.
Okay.
To answer that, yeah.
That's the goal.
Thank you. Yeah.
Any further questions for Chairman Harshman? Seeing none.
I think we'll move to any elected officials that want to talk about this. You bet. Come on up. Come on, and you just, if there's more of you, got 3 seats, so you can fill it all. And I want to first, yeah, go ahead, Commissioner. Good morning. Introduce yourself. Welcome.
Mr. Chairman and committee, I'm Gunnar Malm, Laramie County Commissioner. First, I appreciate the effort of the Revenue Committee and the prior members looking to actually increase revenues to local government in the state. That being said, I sit here today, and as the bill's written, I don't believe that Laramie County, as one of the only 2 affected counties, can support the bill. I'll tell you, it's not a moral issue of gambling being, one way or the other, but it's an issue of local control. And as the bill's written, there's no ability or mechanism for my 100,000 residents to make a decision one way or the other if they want this in their community. And I'll tell you, I'd guess that it's probably split 50-50 like most issues. And so unless there's a mechanism that either an elected member or members from our community can make a determination on this, or the voters of our community, it's really hard for me to get behind. Also, the split of the revenue as it currently states, with most going to the cities and towns, and the leftovers basically going to the county, is not something that's really appealing to Laramie County, as most of, obviously we want more money, but most of the effects of an operation like this in terms of crime and mental health will fall on the county. Our burden, we generally carry the water in those areas. And so a more equitable split like we do with sales tax dollars on our optional sales tax of 50-50 is something that we would look to get here. And just because I can, while I sit here, I'm gonna ask that the counties or local governments get 10% of the total net. So that would be 45% off the total from the or 35 to the state, 10% to the counties. It's a 3% increase from what's currently in the bill. We would currently get 7%, I believe, if we do the 20% that the chairman mentioned. And so I think that's something that we would look or to ask for.
Questions for the good commissioner? Okay, appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Thank you for your service. Okay, we'll move to the good Senator Pappas, Laramie County. Welcome to the committee.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, committee. This proposal that was brought to us back in September, as the chairman mentioned, both he and I were on the previous revenue committee and are the only ones that have come back. And so we've worked this issue for a long time. We really were looking at proposals for new revenue for the state. And as he mentioned, there were a couple of proposals. One didn't pan out, but this one had some legs. And so we four of us, including Representative Yin here and the chairman and Senator Schuler, worked for months actually on this thing. Every couple of weeks, we'd have a Zoom meeting together and discuss the pros and cons of it. And while this bill may not be perfect, certainly I've been discussing with my county officials and with the mayor here in Cheyenne, and there's still some issues that we need to resolve. I think fundamentally the idea of tapping a resource for Laramie County, that would be people along the Front Range, and the Front Range is growing. I don't know, there's 85% of all Colorado lives on the Front Range. In the last 20 years, it grew 1.69 million people, and it's expected to grow 1.9, almost 2 million people in the next 20 years. And so, there's a great resource we can tap there if we are able to bring those gaming tourism dollars to Wyoming. And since we're so close, it just makes great sense. And the thing is, we've been very reluctant to tax ourselves for our schools, for healthcare, for, it's well known that, we don't like additional taxes here, especially on private people. We've been really happy about taxing minerals and the extractive industry, but those days are long gone, and revenue is going to be difficult. So it's hard to find new additional revenue sources. And so I maintain that this is one good possibility. We need to have all parties happy with it. So including the two cities and 2 counties that really this gets affected by. We'll have to come to agreement on the split. We'll have to come to agreement on, there's things in the bill that I still think need to be worked out. I think they can. But I believe it's a way that we can provide additional funding for our schools. And that's as someone who sat 4 years on the Education Committee and am currently the chair of the Select Committee on School Facilities, I know we need these dollars for our schools. So anyhow, I sit for questions.
Any questions, good Senator? Okay, Representative Storr has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Pappas, because you have studied this for a bit, I'm still, there is no fiscal note that provides any kind of guidance on what kind of revenues this would actually bring in. So I wondered if you could tell me a little bit more about what proof you have that this will provide revenues.
Can I
Thanks.
just, one of, I think the people here runs this innovation group
Yeah.
that will have materials for us.
Mr.
and
Chairman.
Talk about their studies, but you know about the innovation. group.
Mr.
You've
Chairman, I
seen
can
the
answer
study.
that question. Yes, there are folks that actually the people who brought the proposal to us, North Rapido, have engaged a firm to study this, and it's a firm that's been doing surveys and consulting to the gaming industry for many years. They know this business, and so they did provide the tribe information, and the tribe has shared that with us. And so those numbers, while they are estimates, are coming from a reputable source. So, and I'll let them share that as well. But we didn't just pull a number out of the air. We did get it from a qualified consultant.
Okay, gonna move to this in questions of Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, sir. Just quick question, just in terms of expected impacts, other types of impacts outside of the gambling, what kind of to the community where these are, those kinds of things, what kind of analysis, assessment, information was provided in the interim on that topic?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative, we actually did discuss this at a high level. We didn't get into the weeds, but there are impacts, both positive and negative. Certainly on the positive side, there's additional property. If it's on private land, there's additional property taxes. The employment is, I think initially something like 1,500 people employed. And after a full build out with maybe hotels and other restaurants in this area, it could be up to 3,000, 3,500 people. So there's additional tax revenue from people living there. I mean, they're going to be spending money in the community. There's certainly the positive impact of bringing 85% of the dollars out of Colorado. But there are negative impacts as well, right? There probably be additional need for law enforcement. We'll have to hire more people for the county to provide some law enforcement services. And as was mentioned by Commissioner Malm, most of the mental health care is provided through the county mental health care centers. There will be some impact there, although again, the 85% of those are people who come to Wyoming and they'll return to Colorado. So the impact there, it's not the entire gaming community that will impact us as far as mental health, but there are impacts. Certainly there are other positive impacts in that since it's will be on an interstate, we'll capture interstate traffic, not only just Colorado traffic, people coming up, but it'll be truckers going through, it'll be, and as many times as we close the road, we may have windfall every time the snow flies. So who knows? But there are positive and negative, and we did discuss them. again, at a very high level, I'm sure there are pros and cons that I don't know about. I don't know if I've answered that enough to your satisfaction.
That's good. Thank you. Okay, and I, just stay right there, Senator. Representative Yin.
Mr. Chairman, thank you, members of the committee. So as those on the committee that have been here for a little while know, I've voted against almost every expansion of gambling. I generally think that that there are pros and cons, right? As the good senator said, and with the statewide expansion that we've had, the folks that we are pulling that money from tend to be Wyoming residents. What I like about the gaming district idea is that it's actually about tourism and it's bringing people into these communities from other places that aren't Wyoming. So we'll hear from the innovation study. So there are 3 areas that possibly made sense for bringing people from outside of the state to bring in gaming revenue into the state of Wyoming. It's the 2 counties that have been brought up already in Teton County. So as many of you know, I think Teton County is probably not very interested in having a casino in Teton County. And that's something that I wanted to make sure as a member of this little group to make sure that that when we have this bill where it puts gaming districts in different places, that we get the communities on board that want to have it on board. And so because my community doesn't really want to have it on board, try to figure out a way to make sure that that doesn't happen. I would ask you on page 4, it talks about located in a county where there's a metropolitan area, not less than 250,000 inhabitants within 100 miles from the county borders. Idaho Falls is at 157 in their metropolitan area right now. So I would ask that we kind of bump that up a little bit just to make sure for future growth that Teton County kind of stays outside of that area. However, I will say, I think this is a great idea for making sure that we increase our number 2 industry, tourism. We can increase revenue towards our K-12 system, and that we can do it in a way that we can come together with the communities to figure out what the communities want. And I think all the 3 of those things are noble goals, and we can deal with the effects in those communities through both the Gaming Commission and funds that come from the districts. So I'll stand for any questions.
Okay, thank you both.
Mr. Chairman, may
Yeah,
I
go ahead, Senator.
add one other
Sure.
thought that I have? I've been asked, well, why don't we just throw the whole state open to Class 3 gaming, right? And just let anybody who wants to set up a gaming facility. Number one, I believe that my intent is actually to try to keep dollars in Wyoming. And so if we open it up, I like this proposal because it only allows the Northern Arapaho to conduct the operations rather than having some conglomerate from Vegas or wherever, Atlantic City, come in here and then take the revenue out of state. Here, at least 35% of the revenue will go to the state and the local communities, and the other percentage will go to Fremont County and will stay with the tribe. And the tribe will spend it. And certainly part of that is actually running the operation, right? They have to pay their help, which are Wyoming people. They'll have to pay, whatever they have to pay, contractors and all that. And a certain amount of that will probably go out of state because we can't provide everything, but a big bulk of the money will stay in Wyoming. So I prefer this methodology rather than opening it up just to anybody who wants to do gaming in Wyoming. Thank you.
Appreciate you being here in your testimony. Okay, we've gotten elected officials. I think now I'd like to just open this up to folks who are opposed to the bill. Here's what I got. It's 9:05. We've got 4 other little bills. We're not going to get to probably all of them. But I'd like to, I don't want this, so if we can keep this and not keep repeating, and so I'm not going to put a time limit on you right now, but let's try to be conscious of our time. So thank you. And if folks who are against that want to just come up and fill all 3 seats, it actually goes a little faster. Introduce yourself and, okay, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Lori Erbekite representing Wyoming Horse Racing LLC. And because of your time constraints, I'm also been authorized to speak on behalf of Wyoming Downs. We are 2 of the 3 operators for Wyoming live racing in Wyoming and parimutuel events. First, I want to just remind the committee that we have the historic horse racing machines and we pay our taxes every Wednesday to the state of Wyoming. And that money goes to the LSRA. It pays for the Gaming Commission's funding. And we also send it, they then send money on to the cities and counties. We are only in counties that have voted to have us in their county. And that's limited. I think we have 13 counties now that we can operate in. Last fall, the 3 parimutuel operators jointly funded an economic impact study from the same group that did the study on this one. So we can compare apples and apples. Our machines support the horse racing industry, and we'll have the final 2022 publication of that economic impact later this week, but I did get the final numbers last night. In 2018, our total economic impact to the state was a bit over $62 million. Not a lot, but not bad for an industry that started at 0 in 2014. In 2021, it was 106 million. And in the 2022 final report shows 150 million in economic impact. So we're growing the horse racing industry. It's an agri industry. It includes not just the machines or the facilities they're located in, but it certainly impacts the farriers, the veterinarians, the feed stores, the land. We have more and more Wyoming bred horses. It is a growing industry. That's what we promised the legislature when we passed the bill in 2013, I think. And that's what we have tried to do. And we think we're doing a good job in growing that horse racing industry. We have to race 16 days. Each operator has to race 16 days. Now, that may not sound like a lot, but try to remember, we don't have a real long summer here. So we've got to get that all in kind of between the middle of May, and we ran into the first week of October this year. We were pretty fortunate that happened. So I just want to give you that background. We have never been subsidized. We don't get state land leases. We pay our taxes, as I said, every Wednesday. And we thought this was, now I'm speaking on behalf of Wyoming Horse Racing LLC only. We thought this was such a good idea that we started this over 2.5 years ago. Wyoming Horse Racing has invested money in land and property already. I've sent you a handout that shows the rendering. We're starting to move dirt. We plan on spending a total of around 39 or 34 million on both projects. And those projects have been approved by the counties, Uinta and Laramie. We've gotten approval from the city of Cheyenne and the city of Evanston. So if this was a level playing field, we might feel a little better. But we can't offer card games. We can't offer dice games. We can't offer class 3 gaming. And this bill specifically eliminates us from being able to compete on a level playing field. So we ask you to seriously consider what you're doing to private enterprise and what the investment that we have made, and that this is going to devastate us if the bill moves forward the way it is currently. So put us all in the same field. Great. Give us all the same chance. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, Ms. Erbekite? Representative Swanser.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Erbekite, can you offer slot machines?
Mr. Chairman, our machines are not technically slot machines. They are games of skill. They're parimutuel. It's based on what other people have bet on that horse race. So ours are not technically slot machines, no. And I will tell you, Mr. Chairman, because I came from Fremont County, and the class 3 slot machines are way more fun to play than what we have. I mean, it's just a reality of life. They just really are. Plus the blackjack games and the dice games, we can't do any of that either. Thank you.
Any other questions? Ms. Representative Oakley has a question.
Yes, I do. And a napkin. Yep. It's fine. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Ms. Urbach. But I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. Aren't they different sort of industries? I mean, if a day, like if you go spend a day at the, watching horses race versus going to a casino. I mean, maybe I'm wrong and maybe people kind of see those as the same thing. I just kind of feel like they're different.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Oakley, no, the horse racing is totally different. Absolutely. The key here is that it is the machines, the HHR machines that pay for our live horse racing. Live horse racing is a losing money proposition. We could not pay our purses. We could not have invested the millions of dollars that we have invested in the different racetracks. We've committed another $1 million to Sweetwater Downs. That all comes from the machines. So one machine looks a lot alike to a machine player, and yet they're worlds apart. And we have to put on live racing too in order to be in business. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Mr. Reaman.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm Jeremiah Reaman here on behalf of the Wyoming County Commissioners Association. I won't restate the concerns that Commissioner Malm has expressed that many of the other counties share in this conversation as well. As the chairman referenced, we do have some concern about the revenue distribution model that's expressed in the bill. Certainly think that increasing that to 20% is a positive move. The problem that still remains is that the current distribution model favors my friends in the municipalities in those two counties.
Did you bring an amendment for us? Did you bring a suggestion?
Mr. Chairman, I have not drafted one. I'm going to talk about a concept. I think I need your attorney help, to be honest, but I'll talk about that concept. Mr. Chairman, as it sits in the legislation, the revenue is the local government revenue is distributed based on population, with the county getting the unincorporated portion, the municipalities receiving the incorporated area. If you take Laramie County, that means that 34% of the revenue would go to counties and 66% would go to municipalities. In Uintah County, it would be 77% to municipalities, 23% to the county. So what's the problem? Well, if the development happens in the unincorporated part of the county, the full responsibility of that facility falls to the county, understanding that there will be, of course, some spillover into municipalities. If you look at our current mutual and skill gaming distribution models, those suggest that if the gaming happens in the unincorporated area, the county gets 100%. In the municipality, the county gets 50%, the municipality gets 50%. That's a recognition that every municipal resident is also a county resident. And two, there are still responsibilities that fall to counties. Much of our state is covered by county law enforcement. The judicial system happens to be under the county. There are other things that I could go into. Mr. Chairman, I'm actually proposing that we not necessarily adopt that model, but rather that we would adopt a model that might look something more like 75% of the local share would go to the government where it's located. So in the unincorporated area, that would go to the county and the 25% would go to the municipalities. And just flip it if it happens to be in the municipal. Again, a recognition that there is some responsibility for both parties, regardless of where it's located. Mr. Chairman, I tried to draft that amendment, didn't get very far, and that's where I need your attorney's help, and I'd be happy to work with them, or I'm happy to bumble through something and give that to you.
Okay, any questions of Mr. Reaman? Okay, appreciate your testimonies and being here this morning. Okay, thank you. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the Revenue Committee. My name is Mary Ann Shaner. I am here on behalf of 307 Horse Racing. 307 Horse Racing is an operator out of the Camplex up in Campbell County. We are a completely Wyoming-based company with Wyoming owners. It is a 307 first company. 307 started just a few years ago for live horse racing. In fact, 307 ran its first live horse races without a single off-track betting location open. 307 Horse Racing's off-track betting locations are not just terminals. For example, here in Cheyenne at the Pershing location, it's anticipated that we'll have a bowling alley, a kids event space, and other family-friendly spaces that will be available. It was previously a vacant building that we have turned into this place for the citizens of Cheyenne. This, however, can only occur with the HHR facility. 307 is also concerned about this bill in relation to the Wyoming Gaming Commission and its ability to currently regulate gaming in Wyoming. We are concerned about the bill in relation to how it will impact our business moving forward. It is the original intent of the legislature and related to authorizing the terminals was to support live horse racing. And we're concerned that this bill goes a different direction. And so we are in opposition to this bill. And to not repeat some of the prior testimony that was given, I will stand for any questions.
Okay, very good. Ms. Shaner, any questions? Shaner, okay, thank you for being here this morning.
Thank you.
Okay, any other folks want to testify against? Okay, we're going to move to any folks in favor, testify for, or are you against? Oh, boy. Okay, come on up, you bet. And then we're going to bring up, I think, the Northern Arapaho, and that'll be a good transition. That's right. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Members of the committee, my name is Dave Pickard. I represent the Sports Betting Alliance. These are the operators of the online sports wagering that the state of Wyoming adopted a couple of years ago. As I mentioned on my way up here, shook my hand. I'm neither for or against this bill. I do want to raise a couple of concerns, though, on page 3. And I do have an amendment that has been provided to you at this point. And Mr. Chairman, applaud the effort to look at additional revenue options. That's precisely what we did with the online sports wagering a couple of years ago. It's something that the citizens of Wyoming wanted. They do participate in it, and it does raise money for various entities in the state. We're concerned about the exclusion and inclusion. And there's no other way to discuss this, but to look at page 3, line 13, where the language says gaming activities do not include online wagering or betting. And I'm assuming you're talking about an iGaming or types of gaming that are on your device that's not related to sports. But then it goes on to say, except for the online sports wagering. We don't know what you have contemplated there with these two entities, if they come into the state of Wyoming, if they would be held to the same standards as the other online sports wagering, if it's brick and mortar. So simply to take any of that confusion out, our amendment would go in and do a little bit of cleanup language, and then just as you have inserted the exclusions about what a game does not include, which is parimutuel or skill-based amusement games in A and B on pages 7 and 10, we'd ask that you include the online sports wagering as an additional section there, and then strike the balance of the line after the word betting on page 3, line 17, remove the remainder of that. And Mr. Chairman, I'll try and answer any questions, but maybe it's part of the discussion we have about.
No, I think it's a good idea. You basically move it from that line 16, 17, give it its own little paragraph. Make sure it's clear. Yeah, I think it's a good amendment. I appreciate you bringing that to us. Any questions of Mr. Picard? Okay, appreciate you being
Thank
here
you.
and your testimony. Thank you. Okay, now I think we're going to move to those folks in favor, and we've got 3 seats. You can just fill them up as you see, and probably can pull up another chair if you want, or however you want to do that. We are in the smallest meeting room. Looks like we about got every seat taken today. Okay, good morning. Who would?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Travis McNevin here on behalf of the Northern Arapahoe Business Council. I would like to, if I may, quickly introduce other members to the committee. We have Co-Chair Returns to War, Co-Chairman of the Northern Arapahoe Business Council. Chris Irwin from the Innovation Group, which was referenced earlier, as well as Ms. Claire Johnson with in-house legal counsel for the Northern Arapahoe.
Well, welcome, and Madam Co-Chair, really honored to have you here with us today, House Revenue. So appreciate you being here. Thank you. Okay, who wants to start? Okay, go ahead.
Good morning, Chairman Harshman and members of the committee. My name is Karen Returnsawar. As Travis had mentioned, I am the co-chairman of the Northern Arapahoe Business Council. The Northern Arapahoe Business Council is a duly elected governing body of the Northern Arapahoe Tribe located in Fremont County. On behalf of the Northern Arapahoe Tribe, I'd like to share a deep appreciation to the chairman for introducing this bill and holding this hearing today. Thank you. We are grateful. As the chairman stated earlier, the purpose of this bill is to fund Wyoming's K through 12 education. To our tribe, there's nothing more vital than the welfare of our children. They are our most precious resource. I would also like to add that I am a descendant of a boarding school survivor. My grandfather went to Carlisle, graduated from there, went back and worked. So within our family, education is highly important. I myself have 2 associate's degrees and 1 bachelor degree in human service leadership. So with that being said, it's really important. This bill is important because this bill is going to be about and for not only our children on the reservation, but the entire children throughout the state of Wyoming. And the way we believe as the Northern Arapahoe people, all children are sacred and holy, and they are our future. And that's what we try to do, is empower them. We need to empower our children and our youth. And this bill here, again, Chairman Harshman, you and your revenue committee, these is doing exactly what we need to do for all our children throughout Wyoming. So it's for this reason that our tribe has donated tens of thousands of dollars to fund scholarship programs, Head Start programs, K through 12, and vocational training programs. Because we believe that not just everybody's built for college, but we need vocational people trained in vocational education. We need welders. We need carpenters. We need electricians, plumbers. So we invest in everybody. That's also the reason I am here today. We are deeply concerned by the state's education funding shortage and the impact it is having on our tribal youth. Specifically, I can say St. Stephen's Indian School. That is one of our schools who is funded by the state. And the kids there are feeling it. So we need to remember those kids. Our tribe does not rely on taxes. We don't have taxes on the reservation. So we don't have the opportunities that everybody else does outside the reservation. And so this is going to help us. This is going to help our tribe, not only our tribe, but again, I'm going to say you guys too. The only revenue we have right now mainly as our tribe businesses. You know, we got game and enterprises, but yeah, we also historically have had the Arapahoe Ranch. But we need to do more. We need to do more, and this is going to help us. A lot of that money comes from, it is used to fund healthcare, our social services, housing, education, other essential citizen services for our citizens of the tribe. We also believe that our elders are the most important. They've taken care of us all these years. And so we turn around and we take care of them also. So this would, the revenue from this would turn around and help our elders. But you know, everybody knows Social Security can't take care of you. It's not enough. So I just, because our government has always looked for ways to generate revenue, we knew we could help when we learned that the state was seeking proposal to solve the K-12 funding deficit. Our experience in using gaming revenues to fund essential government services is what triggered the idea for this bill. And you won't have to reinvent the wheel. That's one of the big things here. In closing, we believe this bill is good for Wyoming. It will address the deficit in the state's K-12 education funding. It will create jobs, as others have said. It will stimulate economic development and growth here, in Cheyenne, and in Evanston. It was also bring out state dollars and keep the money here in the state. Fremont County is a huge county. And a lot of our revenue goes into Fremont County, Lander and Riverton. I just want to say that we all lead Brown and Gold. And we all love Josh Allen and Logan Wilson. So let's get out there, let's pass this bill, and let's create more student athletes who can go and accomplish their dreams and represent our great state of Wyoming. With that being said, I thank you.
Appreciate your comment. Any questions for the good vice chairman? Hey, vice chairman returns to order. Really appreciate you traveling, being here today and traveling in winter roads. Really appreciate your testimony today. Okay, next.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, prior to turning over to Mr. Irwin with the Innovation Group, have a handout that he will go over. Would like to just simply touch upon a number of the items that we believe, you know, this bill checks a lot of boxes for what Wyoming is looking for. Oftentimes there is the notion of leakage, that we drive to places out of state to spend money. This is, you know, in essence, reverse leakage, where we're bringing revenue from the Front Range, for example, or the Wasatch Front back to Wyoming. Economic development gets talked a lot about inside Wyoming, and the need for diversification. These economic development, usually one of the first necessary steps there is what usually is referred to some sort of anchor tenant or business that continues to grow and provide services as it, you know, builds out. Restaurants, hotels, truck stops, you know, all these sorts of things, which would be the end goal of over phases with these sites. So we're not talking just the casino as a standalone entity, but the restaurants, the hotels, providing the services, and then those services that continue to grow, as well as the real estate values and such. They're always impacted. The bill does not raise taxes. This is new revenue. Again, a box that is often talked about in Wyoming. In the past, we have done an excellent job of Campbell and Sublette counties, for example, of utilizing their competitive advantage. You know, the competitive advantage that those counties have had has been minerals and oil and gas fields. And we continue to use and And as all counties, cities, nations should, use competitive advantage for their citizens. These particular sites build upon that idea of competitive advantage, taking advantage of the locations and the proximity where they would be placed. And so, with that, one other thing that I would, mention if the committee seeks to entertain that idea is the Northern Arapaho horses are a great part of their culture and tradition, and if the committee so chose to do so, some of the revenue could be added or put into keeping that those traditions of horse racing, those purses. And supporting that live horse racing industry as well, keeping that intact and healthy. But furthermore, what this bill does is send money to education. A lot of the gaming dollars with HHR is going to horses and not kids. And so I think that one of the things that we could do here is certainly do both. I don't think it necessarily is a either or proposition, but we can have a robust equine industry in the state, support the veterinarians and such that have been that certainly have been an important part of Wyoming's cowboy tradition, while continuing to help fund a budget surplus and deficit. A deficit there in the education space. With that, I will, if I may, Mr. Chairman, hand out some and then turn it over to Mr. Irwin.
Mr. McNiven, why he's. And I think you can just, if you want to give copies to and then you can pass them out, Mr. McNiven, that'll probably be the. Gonna move to Mr. Irwin. If you want to introduce yourself for the committee, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Chris Irwin. I'm with the Innovation Group. The Innovation Group is a hospitality and leisure consulting company. We've been around for almost 30 years in this space, and I've been with the company over a decade. And we were approached by the Northern Arapaho tribe a number of years ago to explore potential gaming revenues. And, our job as a third-party consultant is to provide information. And so we completed a couple studies to identify the potential gaming revenue and in turn tax revenue that could be generated by the state. And then also looked at, what do I want to call it? Other options or other realities of what bringing a casino to the area would be. And that's things such as the direct, indirect, induced impacts of, things like creating jobs, the construction and the ongoing impacts of building a casino. We also explore the community impacts, and that looks at things such as the impact on fire and police, crime, problem gambling, and those options. So those were kind of all studies that have been explored over the last number of years prior to this bill being introduced. And so what you have in front of you is a snapshot of two of the studies that were completed that discusses the potential gaming revenue of a casino in each market. And then obviously a 35% tax on what that number looks like that's being proposed. So that's kind of us at a high level of what we did. And I guess I can.
Questions by Representative Wanitzer.
Real quick, Mr. Chairman, on the top line, it says local market versus out of market. Can you just tell us what local market is? Is that the 100-mile radius? Is that the county?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, thank you. Yeah, so there's kind of multiple streams of gaming revenue that any casino generates. Most of it, outside of places like Vegas or Atlantic City, generate revenue from within approximately 2 hours of where the facility locates. Those are your day trips. Those are the people that drive
gamble for a couple hours, go back home. And that's what is defined as your local market. Your out of market would be people that say are driving by, truckers driving by that don't live in the immediate area, people visiting friends and family that decide to go to the casino. So that would be what you're out of market. And it's usually a much smaller percentage of the total revenue, and that local market, or the, we call it in market, represents the largest portion.
So maybe, can you just take us, like, let's just pick Cheyenne or pick Evanston. I don't care. What do you want to walk through? Betty, doesn't matter. Okay, you got Cheyenne. Can you just kind of walk us through this, the top line, the ongoing, the construction impacts?
Sure. So top line, when you're looking at the revenue streams of the casino, like any business, you could see, multiple streams. For a casino, you have your gaming revenue, which represents the largest portion. And then you could have things like food and beverage, or retail, or hotel if one is to be built. And so this top line gaming revenue is just the projected gaming revenue to be generated by a casino, say in Cheyenne, a casino in Cheyenne. That's a relatively conservative number because we didn't have a specific site. We just kind of sized the market as a whole to understand how much demand could be supported for a given area. And so that's what we're looking at the top line of revenue. And the next two charts cover the economic impacts. And these are things, the economic impacts has two phases. There's the construction phase, which is a one-time, usually over a year, 18 months, maybe 2 years during the construction of the facility. And then there's the ongoing. And those are the impacts of just running the operation of a casino. On top of that, you see three different tiers: direct, indirect, induced. Direct means it's just as it sounds. It's the direct expenses or direct impacts of running a casino. That's salaries and wages. That's the jobs that are created by the people at the casino. Indirect, that is outside benefits to an area by building a casino. For example, the local restaurants or local hotels of people staying there, even though they're originally here to gamble at the casino, they may stay at a neighboring hotel. And those are your indirect impacts. And the induced impacts would be it's kind of a third tier of impact from a casino, and that's the spending of the labor income that the employees generate. So I work at a casino, I get paid a salary, and then I go spend that at the grocery store. So that's kind of a second tier impact of what of an induced impact of what a casino does to a market. Yep. So you'll see the two, one's ongoing, one's construction. And then if you move left to right, you'll see employment. That's, straightforward. That's the number of jobs created. Labor income is the salaries and wages that come from that. The value added is it's really looked at it as basically GDP. That's the impact to GDP for an area. And then the output is another tier that shows the impact of total consumer spending. And that is oftentimes the value added plus the impacts on other regional areas. So those are kind of your columns left to right on the economic impacts.
Just in looking at this, and so how would you say it, just so we can say it accurately? So it's the top line gaming revenue is 90 million.
Correct.
A year. Ongoing economic impacts in the second are 99 million. That's in addition then to this. Is that how you say it? I mean,
right. Yeah. Sorry, I'm not explaining it very well.
No, I think you are. I just want to make sure.
No. Totally understand. It is trying to think of the best way to describe it. So that 99 million that the casino generates is then used to, that's top line. So there's still expenses that come with that. And obviously the largest expense is labor income. So the real value added, the GDP impact of a casino to an area is that value added. So like you're saying, a GDP impact to Laramie County is about 100 million a year.
A value added line. Wow.
Correct.
And then the construction piece, you'd look at the value add, and that's more of what you'd say kind of one time.
Right. It
Build up.
usually takes place over a 1 year period, realistically, obviously before the casino opens, maybe one, over 2 years. We usually judge it over a 1 year period. So that's why you see it 57 million, but that would be over the total construction length of the facility, even if it's longer than that.
Okay, very good. And then as I look at these two, Cheyenne and Evanston, Evanston is actually more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
Yes.
it's your group study of that and
Right. So when we dig into these markets, everything is built from the bottom up. So we look at the people and the availability of spending within a given market based on kind of the size of their quote unquote wallet. We look at the demographics. We look at the type of people that live in the area and where they're spending their discretionary dollars. And then we build our models to look at the demand, and that includes looking at the competition. Obviously, Evanston would be targeting the Salt Lake City market, where Cheyenne is targeting the Denver, Northern Colorado market, but has Blackhawk and Central City to compete with, which results in if they didn't have that, they would probably have a higher potential revenue stream. But as that competitive base comes in, Evanston is projected to be slightly higher than what we see in Cheyenne.
okay, good. Any questions of Mr. Irwin? Representative Bear.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Irwin, I understand this hasn't been run through our LSO, but has this report been made available to the public?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. McNiven.
Chairman, Representative Bear, this is the purpose of producing it today. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Representative Store.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Irwin, so just so I'm tracking, I believe you were referring to the 90.5 million in gaming revenue is a gross figure, correct?
Correct. That would be basically the number that is taxed. So you'd be looking at the 35% tax from that. In the industry, it's called gross gaming revenue, but it's really revenue minus bets paid back out to patrons. So it's a net revenue figure.
Okay. So any other questions, Mr. Irwin? Okay, thank you for being here today and giving us this information. Any other questions? Any other comments that you have? Mr. McNiven or anybody? And is there anybody else here that wants to testify in favor of the bill? Okay, looks like you're going to wrap it up for us unless there's somebody online.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple of additional points on the construction handout and these numbers. These numbers, as I understand them, and Mr. Irwin can certainly correct me if I'm wrong, are all based on just the casino build out. So for example, the construction of a hotel, the construction of a restaurant, the employees thereof, et cetera, are not involved in this analysis. So they would certainly be on top of all of these numbers as it relates to, again, the direct, indirect, induced, certainly would be built upon that as this analysis is based on the casino. And then, as has been mentioned previously, after all of the expenses and mortgage and capital and all of the wages and expenses would be paid, there would be a significant amount of revenue stay in the state of Wyoming through the council and central Wyoming, particularly with Fremont and Tronic counties having certainly a benefit there as well. That's also not captured in these numbers either. And that would be a significant advantage to the state as those dollars, instead of leaving the state, would continue to circulate within Wyoming's economy.
Okay, very good. Appreciate you being here today. Do you have a question, Representative Store? Go ahead.
Sorry. Mr. McNiven, what's the timing for this development? Should this bill move forward? You give us a sense of what that would be.
Go ahead, Mr. McNiven.
Mr. Chairman, Madam Co-Chair, may I? So my understanding that is, should the bill pass, the Northern Arapahoe Business Council would be in a position to go out and solicit the funding, which they have commitments to do both facilities or locations simultaneously. Obviously, a construction timeline for those has not been established, but there would be the effort or the plan of any site to phase it and allow for growth of the different supporting structures with restaurants and hotels, concert venues, halls, museums, those sorts of things. But they would be phased into a site to allow for additional growth.
Okay,
Oh.
quick follow-up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the 772 is the idea of the whole build out, and is that also you're anticipating that these would be new jobs, is what I'm hearing. Is that correct?
Go ahead.
Yes, these would be all new jobs to the state and to the communities. Mr. Chairman.
One more follow-up. Have you, as you may know, Warren Air Force Base here in Cheyenne is anticipating a growth to retool on the base, somewhere between 300 and 600 new employees, perhaps. It's not quite clear. There's already concern about housing here in Laramie County, from what I understand. I don't know what the situation is in Evanston, but I'm just curious whether you have figured out how to address those needs as well.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Storr, the short answer to that would be that has not been looked at yet.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you for being here, and Co-Chair Returns to appreciate you again for being here with us today, joining us. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Okay, anyone else want to speak on this bill?
Thank you, Chairman and Committee.
Yeah, thank you. Yep, absolutely. It's an honor to have you. Okay, I think we're about done now. We've done opposed to the bill and for the bill. Are you for the bill? Okay, well, you're going to be our last one. We're going to wrap her up and work this bill. We did 20 minutes of each side, sounds like, as I look at now we're getting, okay, go ahead.
Chairman Harshman, co-chair, members of the committee. I'm Terry Armitage. I'm with the Wyoming Association of Sheriffs and Chiefs of Police. We're neither for nor against this bill. If you expand gambling, that's your decision to make. Our concern is that it's done right. It's important that your gaming commission be given the resources and the manpower to properly regulate the kind of gambling that you're now possibly going to open up. We've just got a gaming commission in the last few years. I think they're still getting up and running. I was hoping somebody from there would come and talk today. They've got a lot on their plate at this point. This will add a lot more. And I would just suggest, looking at the statute, to keep this focused, I think you need to specifically say what sort of Las Vegas casino style of gambling you're going to allow. If you mean roulette wheels, say so. If you mean craps tables, say so. If you mean blackjack, say so. Because when people come in to start running the casino, if they're not given clear guidance as to what is allowed, who knows what they might come up with. And then the gaming commission will be stuck thinking, we've got to get up to speed on some game we don't even know, like Baccarat, and we've got to promulgate rules and closely regulate and monitor what's going on. So I would recommend really focus on what you're going to authorize here.
Okay, very good. Any questions? Yeah, appreciate your testimony.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And the commission is in a meeting today, and I think the chairman is actually online too, and listening. And is there anyone online? Just quickly, if there, and I guess particularly if the commission chairman, Director Moore, and then we're gonna have to shut it down here.
I'm admitting Mr. Moore now.
Okay, Director Moore, and then we'll close public comment.
Good morning, committee members. Thank you, Chairman Harshman.
you know, I've been listening to the conversations and we do have a commission meeting going on at this time. And so I've stepped over in the other room. We're neither speaking for nor against House Bill 287. My biggest concern as a administrator is regulating the act. And as I have expressed to you, Chairman Harshman, you know, kind of my thoughts over the last couple days regarding this. We've got to have ample funding to oversee this. So I stand for any questions at this point.
Okay, any questions, Director? Hey, Director, appreciate all your input. And as he mentioned, we've been working on this and I've got some amendments to try to make sure that the commission is adequately funded. So thank you. Appreciate all your work.
Thank you, committee members, and I do apologize for not being there in person. Thank you.
Okay, we'll close public comment. And then we'll just start. Members, what's your pleasure on House Bill 287?
Move the bill.
Been moved by Representative Oakley. There's a second.
Second.
Seconded by Representative Zwanitzer. Okay, I'm going to start flipping pages. Okay, page 2. Page 3. And I think we had an amendment on page 3. And by Mr. Pickard, it's basically that's been passed out to you. It takes really what it does is take the online wagering and betting from line 16 and 17 and takes it out of that gaming activities and puts it in its own paragraph C, which I think is pretty clear and a good addition. So anybody? You want to?
Yeah, yes, Mr. Chair, I would move that amendment.
Okay, so and you have a copy, LSO has a copy. Is there a second? Second. Seconded by Representative Northrop. Okay, any questions, members? Okay, all those in favor of the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that's been adopted. Are there any other amendments on page 3? Okay, page 4. I think members, here's I think an amendment on the top of page 4, right here after state taxes or state land and lease payments. I think should be included in there. Does that make sense? You want to?
So moved and.
Okay, moved by Representative Zwanitzer,
Second.
seconded by Representative Oakley. So.
And it would be at the end of line 2, after federal or state taxes, insert the language state land or lease payments. State land and lease, well. State land or lease. Any applicable federal or state taxes or state land lease or lease payments. I trust LSO will figure out where to put that Oxford comma.
Okay, any discussion there? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that's been adopted. Are there any other amendments on page 4?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead. Representative Oakley.
Excited about it. Mr. Chair, I would move on page 4, line 11, to increase from 250,000 inhabitants to 500,000 inhabitants.
Okay. Is there a second? Seconded by Representative Storr. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it's been adopted. Moving over. Anything else on page 4? Page 5. Okay, how about page 6? Page 7. Page 8. Page 9. And page 10.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, Representative Oakley.
Mr. Chair, I move the amendment on page 10, both in lines 1 and lines 12 to change it from 60 to 90 days.
Second. Okay, seconded by Representative North. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that's been adopted. Okay, on page 11. And just some notes, I think, to talk about that, and talking with Commission Chairman Moore. So this first part in paragraph E is about the actual application for the license and the awarding of the license. And then paragraph F is the renewal. And it talks about a license for 5 years, as long as everything, stays in. And so the amendment really would move this 200,000 up where it says 200,000 in line 5 and line 6. Right? And each site then, and so it would be for each site would then be a $500,000 yearly site fee for each place. So it's collect an initial fee of $500,000 from the gaming operator for the issuance of the gaming license. And then what I would put is payable in equal amounts over 5 years of 100,000. And then I would just add for each site. So the total's 200,000 to the commission, but 100,000. So that's the first part. And then this similar amendment down on line 13. Right, it would increase that to 500,000 payable in equal amounts over 5 years at each site. So
Mr. Chair.
200,000 a year in revenue to the commission to regulate.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Okay, moved by Representative Oakley. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, second by Representative Northrop. Okay. All those in favor of that motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. And then I think on this paragraph G, just delete that. Members, because I think it divides that equally with the public school, and I think we want to send all this to the commission for regulation. So it's, if we delete this, then it would send 200,000 a year as amended to the commission to regulate. So that would be paragraph G, lines 16 through 19. Representative Bear.
Just a question, just for clarity. So the first in paragraph E, that just is a 5-year right off the bat, and then that's done, right? And then we go on with this ongoing $500,000 per year, correct? So it'd only be 200,000 for the first 5 years. Is that accurate?
Each year.
For the first 5 years.
For 5 years, yeah. Yeah, 200,000.
Then beyond that, it would just be the renewal of the license.
Right.
Found
So
in
it's
paragraph F.
That's correct. So each year, Mr. Representative Bear, would be basically 100,000 from each site. Okay. And I think we keep working that too, if it. Okay. And then, but if we eliminate paragraph G, lines 16 through 19, then all that goes to the commission.
So moved.
Okay, moved by Representative Wanitzer, seconded by Representative Oakley. Okay, all those in favor of removing that paragraph G, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that's been adopted. Okay, flipping over to page 12. The only note I had here was the director was adding the word national down there on line 21. Chairman of the Gaming Commission, Mr. Moore. Okay, moved by Representative Northrop, second by Representative Byron, and that word national after conducting national. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
They already have that authority somewhere.
Yeah, I'm sure they do, but okay, that's been adopted. Okay, any other amendments on 12 or 13? Flipping over to 14.
Somebody better screw with the numbers.
Okay, I think what we've heard, the biggest part here is on line 8. To increase that 10% to 20%.
That helps my county, Mr. Chairman, so I will move that amendment to make 10-20% on line 8.
Is there a second? Okay, seconded by Representative Storr. Okay, to move the 10 to 20%. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Now, do you want to tackle on this, any of that, or do we want to wait and work on that a little more? This bill passes.
You want the bill out today? Just keep moving it and we'll go.
Okay. Any other amendments on 14, page 14? Okay, page 15 now, or it starts this. It's pretty straightforward on just amendments to existing language in section 2. Any amendments in section 2? Okay,
I'm good.
any other? I think that's just the access. Yeah, I think that's good. Okay. Are there any other amendments? Any other discussion? Any? We ready to vote?
Mr.
Question being called. Okay, go ahead and please call the roll on House Bill 287 as amended.
Representative Bear,
No.
Representative Byron,
Aye.
Representative Locke,
No.
Representative Northrup.
Aye.
Representative Oakley,
Aye.
Representative Storer. No. Representative Strock,
No.
Representative Zwanitzer,
Aye.
Chairman Harshman.
Aye.
The bill passes 5 ayes, 4 noes.
Okay, thank you all for being here today. We are, I'll kind of readjust our Thursday schedule. So we can keep these bills that I had scheduled today. We'll bring them up first on Thursday. Maybe start a little earlier in the morning on Thursday. And those are all little bills. We'll knock those out on Thursday. So, thank you. And, I'll get that schedule out either tonight or tomorrow. Thank you all for attending. Thank you for